Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then we're available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will hear it, you will see it and hear it.
HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a non-profit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS, healthcare, business, political advocacy, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, HOTspots magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus, well, just missed that there, the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
All right, well, let's welcome anchor Bad Papi. Bad Papi is a Latina gender-fluid drag artist who redefines what it means to be trans and non-binary in the Latin community. They perform to popular Latin songs, providing a humorous and often insightful take on gender roles in Latin America to forward LGBTQ plus rights and empower the LGBTQ plus Latin community. Bad Papi is an icon for the Latin LGBTQ plus community and will forever be the baddest Papi in town. Welcome, Bad Papi.
Thank you so much, Al. I'm so happy to be here, dressed in all summery clothes. Gonna get started. So let's welcome Dan Rios. He is the Director of LGBTQ plus marketing for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and Miami Beach, joining their marketing team and tourism division in 2002. Dan is considered one of America's top experts on LGBTQ plus travel and tourism. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Bad Papi. And obviously, I started when I was very young. But with that, let's welcome anchor Dr. Bobby Huen. Bobby is a certified civil and family mediator. As the founder and principal mediator at VH Conflict Resolution Services, he helps families, businesses, and individuals resolve disputes of all types. Having grown up everywhere from Hong Kong to Boston, Bobby is proud to offer a global perspective to current events. When he is not at the office or here in the It's Happening Out studio, Bobby enjoys gaming, Lego building, and hanging out on the drive. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Dan. And now let's welcome our anchor, Rob Lopicola. He is an entrepreneur, master personal trainer, and teacher, and has a decade of experience helping others unlock their inner greatness. Today, he helps gay and bisexual men who are sex addicted have the confidence to be resourceful, peaceful, and serene in all circumstances and thrive as healthy individuals. Welcome, Rob.
Well, thank you. That's an interesting intro, huh? We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, May 9th.
Well, first, let's queer up politics. Anti-LGBTQ+ Texas representative resigns after getting 19-year-old staff member drunk and having sex with her. Texas Representative Brian Slatton resigned from office yesterday, 2 days after an investigation committee determined he violated multiple rules by providing alcohol to and having sexual intercourse with a 19-year-old member of his staff. Slayton, a Republican in his second term representing Royce City, a suburb northeast of Dallas, quickly established a reputation in the legislature as a conservative bomb thrower. He filed or supported legislation to ban drag shows and to oppose transgender rights. He did not address the findings against him in his resignation letter to Governor Greg Abbott. His resignation comes a day before Texas House members are scheduled to vote to expel Slatton on a recommendation from the Chamber's General Investigating Committee. On Monday, Representative Andrew Murr, who heads the investigating committee, said he will go through with Tuesday's vote because by resigning, Slatton stays in office until his successor is elected. Murr's committee found that on 3 occasions, Slatton violated the House personnel and personal drug and alcohol policy by providing alcohol to an underage person, and that Slatton harassed the aide by showing her an email from an unknown person that he likely fabricated and that revealed information about the sexual encounter. Well, certainly the ethical issue here is clear-cut, and I'm glad that the legislature has taken relatively swift action here. Of interesting note to me is in the resignation letter to Governor Abbott, he's presenting a letter to the governor to consider the situation. This representative has been one of the major voices against the drag community in Texas, and the justification, and he has talked about many times, is that drag queens are overly sexual in their content and are grooming children, meaning underage. And in this definition of the violation in the House rules in Texas, that's exactly what he was doing, is grooming someone that is underage. So the hypocrisy is absolutely crystal clear. The other person that I'm interested in what their reaction of the hypocrisy was Governor Bud Abbott, who has also been selling this message that drag is overly sexual and grooms children. And he accepts the resignation letter of somebody that does the exact same thing.
Every accusation is a projection.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of times when you accuse someone, especially when politicians accuse someone of something, it inevitably means that they've done it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think that not only are they accusing drag queens of this, they're accusing the LGBT community in general for being groomers and pedophiles, and and it's funny because a lot of those people, those same people who say those things, are doing it behind closed doors in privacy.
You know, and to your point, this argument has been made, I've heard through my entire life, of the Catholic Church, which is the issue of selling the idea. The Pope is getting closer, but historically, through history of my lifetime, the Catholic Church's opposition as sin of LGBT, and then the contradiction of all of the sexual violation going on into the church, which is exactly an example of the point that you just made.
What always interests me is the people that hate. When they hate, usually it's from my experience, it's a reflection of what's going on inside of them. Why hate so much? You know, a minority group or someone different than you? And usually it has a reflection of what's going on inside of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also found it really interesting that the letter didn't address the actual situation as you reported. So why, what is it that they're trying to not do it officially? Or
what are you trying to hide?
What are you trying to hide? I mean, when it's all over already, I mean, that is the reason why he is resigning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, next, let's queer up the USA View. Retired Navy Commander defends pro-drag recruitment video. Retired U.S. Navy Commander Juliana Vida has slammed the Republican lawmakers' criticism of the use of a drag queen to boost recruitment. Vida told Fox News that Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville's position was destructive and works to undermine the Navy's ability to recruit new members. The senator declared the Navy's ad to be the branch's Bud Light moment, referring to recent controversy that erupted out of the Anheuser-Busch brand's use of transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, as a spokesperson. She called the drag queen promotional campaign a critical method to welcome traditionally excluded segments of our population. Tuberville warned the military branch had become preoccupied with identity politics after it announced that Joshua Kelly, who goes by the stage name Harpy Daniels, had been promoted to become its digital ambassador. Vida, a 30-year veteran who is member of the Naval Academy Alumni Association Board of Trustees, said that the conservative senator's criticism is merely a trope that plays well exclusively to a socially conservative base. She said that harnessing the power of social media to reach out to the LGBTQ+ community is a way for the Navy to appeal to all people in a society who are willing and able to volunteer their lives to the service of the nation. And that last part to me is actually the most impactful thing, that these are, members of our community that are actually willing to defend the laws of this nation, and yet they're completely not only, disregarded, but criticized.
Can I actually add that in World War II, there were actually soldiers that actually did drag themselves for fun. So what's the problem here? Why is it a bad thing that they're using drag queens to promote it? They literally did it themselves.
This whole drag panic is prevalent because they really have nothing else to say. They have no good policies. They couldn't figure out how to attract anyone after Roe v. Wade and other, related anti-women rulings. And now they're trying to, create a bugaboo out of thin air. But more to the point, the thing is, social sciences and actually marketing has always indicated that right now the economy is good, and therefore usually recruitment ads tend to be more fanciful because there's less available recruits out there to join the Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force, etc. And meanwhile, if the economy turns south, these ads would disappear and replaced by things that will reflect the actual hardness of being in the military. That's actually tried and true.
Point. And when we're sitting at 3% unemployment, I imagine recruitment in our armed services is more difficult.
Yeah, and
it is, absolutely.
I mean, they can just send a bunch of Marines to Wilton Manors, I'm sure.
Right. One final thought. I want to specifically focus on this senator from
Alabama.
From Alabama, Tommy Tuberville. This is a university football coach, very noted, very controversial in terms of him running for the seat that was held in one term by a Democrat. He blows a dog whistle. And I think it is a very distressing dog whistle. The military is preoccupied by identity politics. Well, if the military was preoccupied by any other issue, the GOP would say that's absolutely okay with us because the military and flag waving and. He zeroes in on something of criticism of the military because he doesn't like the embracement of this drag recruitment. And it's not a question of whether it's successful or not. It is because he's against it. He's against drag queens. He's against the LGBTQ plus community. And this is the way he'll get at it, by going after the military. But it is a disgraceful statement. The senator from Alabama is disgraceful. It is a nature of preoccupied by identity politics. Well, I hope it is. And I hope the military is focusing and preoccupied on identity politics, because in the United States in the last century, they have done better than any other segment of American population in terms of propelling progressive thought in America. In the 1940s, long before America was willing to integrate in any possible way for the black community, the military did it. They were preoccupied by identity politics of black people. And so black recruits began in the 40s, and they began to embrace, which led to the issues of segregation in the 50s and ultimately to civil rights in the 1960s. And historians say it started with the U.S. military. In the 1950s, the military was preoccupied in identity politics that began to talk about the equality of women. And they pushed it in the U.S. military far beyond and further than we were in American society. So in the 1960s, when the television show represents the Mad Men, the U.S. military was already ahead of the curve, which led to the sexual revolution of the 1970s, initiated by the U.S. military 20 years earlier.
Obviously a pattern here.
A pattern.
So do you believe that that's what's going to happen with trans people?
Absolutely. The U.S. military's embracement of all means all is ahead of American thinking and ignorance thinking in America of black, of women, of other minority groups that have representation. LGBT, they were ahead of America in LGBT. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was an embracement in the 90s, and the military came there faster to embracement of LGBT. I went to a pride celebration at the Pentagon in 2014 or 2015. A pride celebration. Senator Tuberville would have hated to attend the Pentagon's Pride celebration. Our military is always ahead of American society because through the structure of the military, they don't deal with Fox News's and they don't deal with Tommy Tubervilles. And so as a result, they push it on.
Well, it sounds like that they're pursuing all men and women are created equal. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Which is identity politics.
We're all created equal.
Yeah.
And who cares what you do? If you're a productive member of society, who cares what you're doing?
That's exactly it.
Absolutely.
That's a good pattern history. I like that. Good stuff.
Next, let's queer up drag culture. Star-studded Drag Isn't Dangerous Telethon raises over $500,000. The Drag Isn't Dangerous live stream telethon, hosted by Justin Martindale, Alaska 5000, Peppermint, and Adam Shankman, and created by Producer Entertainment Group, raised more than $500,000 for LGBTQ+ charities. The event saw performers including RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 7 winner Jinx Monsoon, Jake Wesley Rogers, Bob the Drag Queen, and more take to the stage in both live and pre-tape performances to help raise money for organizations benefiting the queer community. Along with performances, the event also featured a number of testimonials from LGBTQ+ entertainers and noted allies such as Margaret Cho, Adam Lambert, Charlize Theron, Sarah Silverman, and Melissa McCarthy, who spoke out against the rampant discrimination being faced by LGBTQ+ people everywhere. In one of the most blistering statements of the evening, RuPaul's Drag Race judge, Michelle Visage, blasted state legislatures aiming to restrict drag performances. All proceeds from the event are being split among a pool of charities, including GLAAD, Gilson, Headcount, Black Queer Town Hall, the ACLU Drag Defense Fund, Trans Justice Funding Project, and the Victory Fund to support and defend drag performers against anti-drag legislation in states such as Tennessee and Florida. Wow, wow, wow. If there's one thing drag queens can do is raise money.
That's the truth. $1 at a time.
$1 at a time. My gosh, 500,000, that is quite a sum. I am so happy that it's going towards organizations that are supporting trans performers, because as you know, as a trans performer myself, we're being villainized, we're being attacked. This is basically war for us. And
basically.
It is a war. And the money is going to help so much with supporting the drag performers who are being attacked with these legislation.
And overall, the initiative really points out the good that can come from the community as well. A community that's being portrayed as being, evil. It actually the power that is behind that community, and the good that they can do.
There is, and one of the things that I get offended by is when anyone in the media or in the law and politics says every drag queen does this, every gay person does, and that's an untrue statement. I'm a firm believer if you change the way you look at a thing, the thing you're looking at will change. Well, what are you looking at? Yes, there are these type of people in every community, in every race, in every culture, in every sexual orientation. But the fact of the matter is there's also wonderful stuff in the drag shows. There's wonderful stuff in the gay community. There's wonderful stuff in the black community. And let's look at that stuff. Change the way you look at a thing. The thing you're looking at will change.
Well, and that's how these rhetoric get put forward, because by demonizing just one person,
right,
you can say that, one drag queen is bad and therefore all drag queens are bad.
Exactly.
One gay person is bad and therefore all gay persons are bad.
Exactly.
But we don't turn around and say one straight person commit murder and therefore all straight persons are murderers.
Right.
So, it's, but it's to trigger the fear of the unknown with people who don't live in city centers, with people who don't live anywhere near an LGBTQ community. They paint this picture of a horror show, of debaucherous, Sodom and Gomorrah type of situation. I mean, trust me, Waterman is not that.
Yeah.
I wish.
And to that point, I think interesting, because once you establish this is what they're doing, the required question is, why are they doing it? And in this instance with drag queens, in 1994, RuPaul went to VH1 and did that first talk show as a drag queen. And through the time of doing that talk show, you never read in the 1990s that RuPaul and the VH1 show that she was doing was grooming children. No, whether you liked drag or whether you hated drag, RuPaul, there was not opposition to RuPaul because she was grooming children. Right. In the 2000s, as drag became more and more popular, leading up to Logo's launch of RuPaul's Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race operated, and there was not a wide segment of America saying, this must stop because they're grooming children, and it's dangerous for our children, and they shouldn't be on television, and MTV and Viacom shouldn't be involved in this, and let's have a boycott because they're grooming children. That did not happen. You might not have liked drag, or you might not have liked the LGBTQ community, but they did not make the connection to say you're grooming and destroying our children.
Let me say, there is no connection. There really is no connection. I think what's happened in our society is the gay and lesbian youth and transgender youth are more comfortable to be more open and come out and share their orientation early. And I think society is getting scared of it. It's always been like that. It's just that back in the day, a gay man might not come out till he's 60, married with 2 kids. Now he can come out. So he lived his life living how he didn't want to. But today, because they're coming out so much earlier, I think there's a society fear of that. Well, what's causing that? Well, the drag queens must be forcing that on the kids.
And it's not society. It's a small percentage that are doing it for power and money to hold on to control. That's what's causing the fear. One last thought before we move on. Bobby's got to jump in for the next story. I worked with RuPaul's Drag Race for a lot of years. 7 years I worked with RuPaul's Drag Race. I congratulate specifically at Producers Entertainment. I worked with him for years, David Charpentier, who runs a producer entertainment group, which was behind this event. And I specifically call out Jinx Monsoon, the winner of All Stars. RuPaul's Drag Race had the most successful season in 2022 in history, 22-23, which was All Stars season 7, and Jinx wins it. Jinx is evolutionary in terms of someone that goes on and represents the drag community spectacularly in entertainment in so many different ways. I congratulate Jinx, because at the end of the day, Tennessee and Florida and Texas are not going to be able to sell to America that Jinx Monsoon is dangerous for children and that Jinx Monsoon is grooming children. They are not going to be able to sell this to America. And this was the starting point, which is why I congratulate World of Wonder and David Chapontier at Producers Entertainment, because they've drawn a line in the sand. Yes, congratulations on the $500,000, but far more important, they've drawn a line in the sand that says, we now are going to fight. And this is the start where entertainers, the LGBT community, but allies, we have tons and tons of allies that are going to say, we're not going to accept this, and Tennessee and Florida and Texas are not going to be able to sell this to America, and now we're going to fight. And that's why this story, I think, is so important.
Well, thank you,
Good
Al.
stuff. Thank you.
Yep. Next, let's queer up entertainment. Marvel unveils 2023 Pride Month variant covers. Pride Month is rapidly approaching, and Marvel Comics is excited to reveal all this year's stunning Pride variant covers. On May 4th, fans got to see LGBTQIA+ characters from this galaxy far, far away in all-new Star Wars Pride variant covers by two superstar talents, Lucas Warnock and David Talaski. Celebrating Pride all month long, these vibrant covers will grace comic stands each week of June with incredible depictions of LGBTQIA heroes from all corners of the Marvel Universe, including longtime icons, rising stars, fan favorites, and recent breakout characters. While Warnock captures the joy of Pride Month with characters paying tribute to ballroom culture and gay nightlife, Talaski showcases the power of Pride Month with the character's strength and resilience on full display in striking portraits. Here's the lineup of heroes, highlights, and the comics where you can currently find their stories. Rachel Summers, aka Ascani. Aaron Fisher, aka the Captain America of the Railways. Black Cat, Marvel's greatest thief and one of Spider-Man's fiercest allies. Fang, aka Daken, son of Wolverine. Escapade, the breakout mutant hero from last year's Marvel Voices Pride. And Webweaver, the most fabulous hero in the Spider-Verse. Okay, apologies, but I know that the article got Star Wars and Marvel all together. Some comic geeks are going to burst a blood vessel. Yes, I understand that Star Wars, Marvel is Marvel. Trust me, as a fan, I get that. But
it is all the same company.
Yeah, it's now Disney.
Right.
You're okay though, right?
Yeah, so, hopefully these heroes will beat up a suspiciously rotund governor of a certain state. But anyways, I am definitely happy that, Disney is putting the word, their mouth where the word is, well, the other way around. And definitely having LGBTQ plus characters on comic books, although it's a small thing, right? I mean, it's not like comic books are now that popular. It's not, the old days when everyone has a comic book.
I can say that it's getting a lot more popular in my generation. I'm telling you, all my friends are geeks, all of them. I'm more of a DC person myself, but I have some Marvel fans in my crew, so I know about.
And to that point, I want to disagree with you, Bobby, because if we were doing, we're doing this show on May 9th, 2023. If we were doing this show on May 9th, 1993, and we reported this many comics at Marvel, had this kind of embracement, it would be like an all-stop moment in America.
Geek culture,
it would be
gay
at the
culture.
top of NBC Nightly News that Marvel was doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going, it's not a really big deal.
It's a huge thing.
A huge deal.
SuperCon here in Miami is huge.
I know.
It is like
I've been there a couple of times.
huge event, and like there's so many queers going, and to like hear that like their favorite superheroes are queer, like that's a huge and revolutionary thing.
Yeah, I think it takes place right after Pride Month in July.
I want to ask about, again, this is May 9th. We're 21 days from the beginning of Pride Month. This is, at Queer News Tonight, officially our first rainbow capitalism story of what's going to go on all month next month. Do you like this? Besides the significance of it,
Yes.
let's grant it's significant.
Right.
Yes.
But broadly, in terms of embracement in the month of June, do you like? Because this is a business.
Absolutely.
Do we like the rainbow capitalism embracement in June, or do you just The reason I ask is there's a whole slew of viewers that are going to comment on this story in all kinds of channels.
You know,
It's just.
according to these companies, we're only gay in June. And then all the other year, it's like, we're just cisgender, heterosexual.
Like it or don't like it?
I don't really support rainbow capitalism, honestly, because like they only support us during 1 month, and the other like months, like it's just
and I challenge that, and that's what Marvel's doing in the month of June. So you don't like Marvel doing this?
I mean, I like the attempt for them to like make inclusivity of LGBT people, but what I don't like is that they're not fighting for our rights like 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days in the year.
Yeah. The sole exception here is we're talking about Disney, and when they sued the governor of Florida, they are definitely. But there's other companies that don't. But Burger King's 2 tops waffle or a Whopper or 2 bottoms Whopper.
Yeah.
You're saying no.
Yeah, I mean, like let me give an example, and I don't mean to like call out any companies, but Bacardi, for example, completely shut down their diversity and inclusion segment after Ron DeSantis basically pushed all these anti-LGBT laws. They're like, whatever, like I'm out, and so therefore I'm out of like LGBT causes. So it's like, you're with us in June, and then like you're not supporting us in the other months.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I support rainbow capitalism for one reason, that rainbow capitalism, at least these companies acknowledge us. I mean, at the very least, these companies actually want to cater to my community instead of my opponent's community. That's a very important part. They can, some companies, Chick-fil-A, for example, have loudly declared that they do not support us.
Totally.
But
Period, yeah.
the rest of these companies, they come to support us because not just because we pay money to their services, which is always true, but also because companies are always looking for trends, and they understand that diversity and embracement of LGBTQ community will go forward despite steps backward.
I don't necessarily support or not support rainbow capitalism. I mean, they're putting a lot of emphasis in June, but that's our statement month. That's our month too. So I think that them supporting that, even though they're supporting with emphasis for 1 month, that's going to be a permanent memory. I mean, you're always going to look back and be, well, they supported the gay community. So I don't think that they're not going to support it in July. I just think they're making a statement for us. The month we celebrate, it's like Mother's Day. Well, we should celebrate Mom every day, right? But we put a little emphasis on Mother's Day. It's the same thing. So I think it's a permanent support, even though they're throwing emphasis on one month.
And speaking of supporting the community, lots of mayors in Florida have done that. Rob, you're going to tell us all about that.
We are. Next, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Mayors across Florida pledged to support LGBTQ plus community. Florida mayors across the state are speaking out in support of the LGBTQ plus rights in line of several bills which are targeting the community that have been passed by the state legislature and are heading to the desk of Governor Ron DeSantis. At least 8 mayors from Orlando, Miami Beach, Tampa, Tallahassee, and more have signed the pledge in support of the LGBTQ plus advocacy organization GLSEN or Gleason in its Rise Up campaign. Fort Lauderdale's open gay mayor, Dean Trentella, said, quote, in Fort Lauderdale, you can be who you are without fear of reproach. Discrimination of any kind, particularly towards our LGBTQ plus children, has no place in any part of our society. Greater Fort Lauderdale boasts one of the highest concentrations of same-sex households in the nation. And we welcome, on average, over 1.3 million LGBTQ plus visitors each year. Unquote. Very impressive. The Rise Up campaign also advocates for LGBTQ plus affirming books, resources, and curriculum, as well as advocacy against anti-LGBTQ plus bills and rhetoric. Florida has been leading the recent wave of legislation and policies targeting the LGBTQ plus community. The bills recently passed by the Florida legislature include a bathroom bill that bars transgender people from using restrooms or changing facilities that do not align with their gender assignment at birth. Another bill expands the parental rights in education law, which has been dubbed the Don't Say Gay law by critics. You know, it was interesting. I had Googled earlier today, and this was an interesting read that I had here, very, very short. I Googled, should laws change with the times? And it says, values across society change over time. What people in society may consider important and relevant within one generation may alter over a transitional period of time. In order to remain relevant, the law must uphold and reflect the values and beliefs of society in the present time. You know, and we have progressed with our laws significantly over the last several decades, amazingly. And here we are now going backwards. You know, so we're not staying relevant with the present time. We're going back in time here. So this isn't
why these kind of laws ultimately will not succeed. We're going to suffer through them, but ultimately they cannot. The Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy tried to do this in 1953, ultimately was not successful. George Wallace, as governor of Alabama, tried to do it in the late 50s and early 60s and ultimately could not stop segregation in Alabama. The exact same conclusion of the trash heap of bad ideas is what this collective group of people are going to continue to do. And in my opinion, that's what the mayors of these cities are doing. I want to ask you, Dan, of course, we are quoting Dean Trantelis from Fort Lauderdale, but Miami-Dade County is just a gigantic. The mayor of Miami-Dade County and the mayor of Miami Beach. Just speak to the leadership of mayors in the two major cities.
No, you know, I report to a committee for the city of Miami Beach that advises the commission, and they are already, you know, looking at ways that they can actually stand for the community and support what is being challenged and taken away. But in a way, of course, they have to do it within the framework of what's being positioned in the state.
Yeah.
But at least they're thinking about it. You know, they're already having conversations. And that's on the county level also with the advisory board to the commission. So we really, you know, it's very important the LGBTQ community for Miami-Dade County, for tourism. We welcome, you know, 2.7 million visitors every year with a financial impact that is tremendous in the billions of dollars. And that's one of the things that also is very important to communicate, that, you know, the contributions financially into the economy that will resonate with a lot of these folks that are just pointing the finger right now, thinking that we're pretty just devils, as you know, we put it.
One other question related to that I think is fascinating, and the mayors around Florida, these major cities. It's interesting, the support's coming from major metropolitan cities, not smaller cities, which I think is interesting. Just address that issue for all of these major metropolitan cities of how important tourism in Florida is to them.
You know, it's the number one industry. I mean, it is flat out. There's nothing else compares to it. You know, tourism is Florida's number one industry, so we need to protect it. And, you know, these conversations that are taking place right now of boycotting or not boycotting, this is very dangerous. When a group that is centered around the rights of people is questioning whether they want to bring 6,000 delegates to the state, that is, if they do not come, that is a tremendous loss of money.
Right.
to the economy, to our people, to our community.
Ripples out to everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Quite significant. And obviously why so many of these major city mayors have taken this stand. Besides, right is right, at the end of it.
Al, I just wanted to add real quick. We may be having a little bit of a setback, but I'm a firm believer and for encouragement for the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah. A setback is a setup for a comeback. Yeah. We're going to hold on strong.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, now let's take a sneak peek of some of the stories that will be appearing in this week's SFGN.
This week in SFGN, powered by Queer News Tonight. I'm SFGN senior reporter John Hayden. In this week's issue, the brutal legislative session in Tallahassee is finally over. Now that the dust is settling, Florida's LGBTQ plus community assesses the damage and figures out where we go from here. Also, Wilton Manors tries to understand and define what LGBTQ plus safety means in an increasingly hostile environment. And Season 8 of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars drops Friday. We have a fierce preview. I'm John Hayden. Those stories and more in SFGN on stands now and always updated online.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here in Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, we finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up HOTspots. In this week's HOTspots, the hottest swimwear for the summer. This week, HOTspots on stands Thursday features the hottest swimwear looks to get your summer started with a cover and story photos by Queer News Tonight's anchor Dale Stein. We are giving you a sneak peek of that new cover now. Catch the hottest looks by Addicted USA, ES Collection USA, Rough Skin, Be Naked Underwear, Nasty Pig, Aussie Bum, and Tim Teo in a steamy and sexy photo shoot that was done at the Cabanas Guest House and Spa right here in Fort Lauderdale. Make sure to grab the issue when it hits stands on Thursday and start planning your pool party styles.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up drag culture. Our lesbian Jesus, Hayley Kiyoko, nearly gets concert shut down over support of drag queens. Hayley Kiyoko protested Tennessee's anti-drag legislation by taking the stage at a Nashville concert with drag performers despite threats of being shut down by undercover cops. Kiyoko is a singer and actor and icon for the LGBTQ plus community, even earning the nickname Lesbian Jesus for some of her fans. For her recent concert in Nashville, she planned to perform alongside two drag performers, Libra T and Ivy St. James. She took the stage and performed with the drag performers without incident. However, she later revealed that the decision to take the stage didn't come easily, as she had received threats of legal action due to Tennessee's anti-drag bill.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. As many U.S. states restrict LGBTQ plus rights, Illinois continues to support inclusivity. Illinois bills that would update existing laws to be more gender inclusive and add protections for LGBTQ plus marriages are ready for action by Governor J.B. Pritzker, who said he would sign them. The bill's sponsor and the first and only current out LGBTQ plus lawmaker in the Illinois state, Senator Mike Simmons, said that the trio of state bills passed last week are meant to move the state in the opposite direction of those restricting LGBTQ plus youth. Illinois is one of several U.S. states that have moved to counteract a surge of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation in mostly Republican-led states.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. History Fort Lauderdale presents Take Pride, a photo retrospective at the Galleria Mall. In honor of Pride Month, History Fort Lauderdale will present Take Pride, a retrospective of LGBTQ plus life in South Florida. This impactful exhibit will chronicle the gay rights movement and the significant migration of LGBTQ plus community members to South Florida, contributing to the success of its vibrant arts and culture, business, media, and political landscape. A ticketed opening reception will be at Galleria Fort Lauderdale on Wednesday, May 31st at 6 p.m. The event will recognize pioneers such as the City of Fort Lauderdale's Mayor, Dean Trentellis. Visit Lauderdale's Senior Vice President of Inclusion and Accessibility, Richard Gray. South Florida Symphony Orchestra's music director and founder, Sabrina Maria Alfonso. WSVN Channel 7 anchor Craig Stevens, South Florida Sun Sentinel journalist Rod Stafford Hogwood, renowned entertainer Tiffany Arriagas, Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Chorus founder Gary Keating, and founder of the COPA and entrepreneur John Castelli. This historic exhibit will be on public display at the Galleria Fort Lauderdale during the entire month of June.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. Leading up to the presidential election, Turkey's Erdogan doubles down on anti-LGBTQ plus. Turkey's President Erdogan branded his opposition pro-LGBT at a campaign rally, saying he will bury them in a ballot box. Erdogan held an election rally on May 7th in Istanbul, and he vowed his Justice and Development Party and other parties in the alliance will never be pro-LGBT because family is sacred to us. He is facing off against Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, leader of the Republican People's Party, which is leading in several polls. It represents the greatest challenge Erdogan has faced in his leadership since he became president in 2014. It comes as a little surprise that with Turkey due to cast ballots in presidential and parliamentary elections on May 14th, Erdogan has ramped up the same anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric he has been known for throughout his presidency.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up technology. TikTok reveals it created a list of people who view LGBTQ plus content. According to former employees who spoke to the Wall Street Journal, TikTok users who watched LGBTQ plus content were included on a list that could be viewed by authorized staff. Users were identified by their ID number, which TikTok gives each user when they start watching videos on the popular app. In its report, the journal notes that the practice took place for at least a year and was done to understand trends and find ways to boost engagement on the platform. The employee said that TikTok also created lists of users who watched different content, but those topics were not considered to be sensitive. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Bad Papi, Dan Rios, Dr. Bobby Huen, and Rob Lapicola. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire